This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Well, hello, one and all. Thanks for coming on in today. I kind of do these impromptu lives once in a while and tell you guys some cool stories that I've gotten from people, whether they email me, I talk to them on the phone, and I've got 3 great ones: a shapeshifter, a werewolf, and a dogman. How about that? I'm really happy. I'm really excited. Also, you guys, I'm at 4,999 subscribers on YouTube. So this is another reason why I'm throwing this out here today, to hit that 5,000 mark. Technically, I won't be too excited when I hit 5,000 because typically people fall off. So technically, I need about 5,010 to keep that 5K up on the board. I thank everybody for coming on in. John Robinson, Mickey, Judy Wheeler, Dennis, Freaky Geek, Gary Spike, Say Pop, Scott. Let's see who else. Freaky Geek. Freaky, hit me up on Facebook. Denise, Mickey G. Sober Carper, Sober Carper. Good to see you. Keith from Oakland County, Michigan. Just to name a few. Let me scroll up a little bit more here. Blah, blah, blah. Joe Stewart. Hey, Joey. What's going on? Good to see you. Probably a few more coming. You guys are piling on in here. I think I got most of you. A little twisted. What's shaking, twisted? Let's twist and shout tonight. Yeah, so I'm actually really excited to do this for y'all. And don't forget, if you are new, please subscribe to Bigfootmichiganrob on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, also found on YouTube. Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. Paranormal Paul. Danielle Diva. Hi, Joanne. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. And I appreciate this. I'm going to get out with these 3 encounter stories here in just a moment. But also, as y'all know, we do have our conference going on. That booming music, you can thank Tex for ringing out your ears. He did record that pretty loudly. I do think he did, but I love it. He's really good at doing those things, and so this, of course, appreciated. But like I mentioned, you guys, as you saw a little bit earlier, we got this conference going on, Crossing Realms Conference, UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptids. This is September 19th and 20th. In Richmond, Missouri. So that's awesome. We also have a live ghost hunt. The ghost hunt already, folks, it's already sold out. Yeah. And there's most of the speakers. We added Brian Bowden to this list. We've also added Miguel from Sasquatch Theory to this list. Josh Hurd, paranormal filmmaker and author, will be there. Heather Mosier from Small Town Monsters will be there. Frankie and Dan from the Haunted Garage will be there. They're also bringing a haunted car for us to check out. Tex, of course, is the master of ceremonies. Other speakers and filmmaker, go check out Greg's film. Go check out my show last Tuesday night with Greg Ogles and Krista. It encapsulates his awesome film he made. Greg Ogles, William Lunsford, the Falk Monster Hunter. He's also been on television. Ronald Murphy, Lady Ann Celine, Dr. Dean Bertram. I love Dr. Dean. He'll be talking a lot of weird stuff in UFOs with us. We have some special guests, and this list is also growing. I can't read the list of the other names. We have Dana Stricker, Ken Gerhard, Brent Thomas, and I think there's we added 2 or 3 more. It's sponsored by Doug Hijack from Monster Quest and a couple others as well. So we got a great lineup. Just a great lineup. Also, my books, you guys, they're out there. Thank you for those that bought them. True Cryptid Encounters Book 1 and Book 2, both found on Amazon. Type Bigfoot Michigan Rob into your Amazon browser. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found. So, yeah, we're all over the planet, all of us, all my friends that I mentioned. I really thank you guys for helping me get close to that 5,000 mark. Hi, Tammy. Hi to everybody. Because without you, I wouldn't have a show, and you drive the shows. Also, the people talking to not only the people in chat, but also the people that don't come in chat, but you watch and listen to the show as it's going on. It's always a lot more people that watch it that are in the chat room. So I love you guys, and thanks for helping me get close to 5K. And also, really briefly, I have to also mention something. Hi, 86. Hi, Joanne Hartnett, as you guys all roll on in here. Also on the Blondes and Booze tonight, I'll be on their show tonight. We have a cool show set up. And I'm guessing I'll have 5,000 by the time the Blondes come on tonight. I think it's at 8 Central or 7 Central. Just turn on your alert bells for all our shows, not to catch that, because I will be, we're going to have a fun show. At the end of the show, we're going to spin the wheel, and I'm going to be giving away one of my books. I'm going to donate one of my books to you guys, whoever's lucky enough to hit it, and I'll sign it for you, and I'll mail it out to you. And I think the Blondes also are going to give away one of their T-shirts tonight. So check them out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, thank you to everybody for helping support me and my friends. I consider y'all family, and a safe place to be with BMR, Tex, the Blondes, Donnie, Monica, Paranormal Paul, Miss Diva, all of us. Love you guys. Thank you ever so much. Hi, Laura. Pixie Lara. How's it going? Hi, Judy Wheeler. If I did not shout you out, don't mean I don't love you. I just didn't see you. Because once I get into these stories, these encounters, true cryptid encounters, I'm probably going to lose track of the chat. The super chat is open. Great way to support the show. You can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Join the many, join the few. That's right. You get a picture of me in the chat room sporting a bandana. That's what you get in the members only shows that I haven't done yet. I got to figure out a format for that, but I love and appreciate you guys, as I said, always, and I can never say that enough. So, thank you. I'm already parched, and I got 3 cool encounters to go through. So, wow, what a great way to start. Thank you, Laura. 5 new BMR pirates in the house. Congratulations to the gifted, as Freaky says. Hi, Daryl. How you doing? 86, how you doing? So thank you. Love you, Laura. I appreciate you. So, yeah. So I'm going to get on with this. And the first one that I talked to this guy, and it's about a shapeshifter. Okay. An alleged shape. Everything's alleged, you guys, but these people, they pour their hearts out to me with these stories, and most of them don't want to come on shows just because of ridicule. So that's why I kind of shaped these shows for you guys. So I'm gonna get on with this. And this the person's name in this, the story, the guy who sent me this, his name is Luke, and he was talking about his friend Steven over the years. And I found this to be quite fascinating, and I hope you do as well. So going back in with Mr. As Luke was telling me, I'll get started right now, you guys. He goes on to tell me, he goes, "Hey, Rob, I never knew what my childhood friend Steven was always up to. You see, he was always getting into trouble. He was always getting suspended from school, mostly from fighting, right? He seemed an odd character. And a lot of his friends wondered what the relationship he had with this kid, because this kid, Stephen, was kind of an outcast. Hi, Roger Blair. And an outcast, as he goes on to say to me, it might be a harsh word, but even the parents, you guys, kept their children away from the Stephen character. Okay, most of the kids felt that he was just an odd bird, and honestly, this kid kind of he kind of worried a lot of the parents. So Luke goes on to tell me this despite all of his troubles, Stephen's troubles, Luke was drawn to Stephen. Luke was drawn to Stephen. Okay. He goes on to tell me that he first met Stephen in the first grade at their elementary school in upstate New York. He says their school district was in Ithaca, New York, which is approximately 10 or 12 miles or so from the Shindagan Hollow State Forest, which is about 24 miles west off of I-81 in New York. He goes on to tell me, to be honest, as a kid, Luke himself was kind of a loner. He goes on to say, hey, Rob, sure, I had friends, but they were very few and in between. And he kind of believed this was so because of his friendship with Stephen. Okay. He goes on to tell me about during his grade school years, they took turns hanging out, oftentimes spending the nights at each and other's homes. Luke goes on to tell me that looking back, that both of the parents were kind of relieved that they did get along so well. However, Luke's dad was not a fan of Stephen's. In fact, the mom always told Luke's dad that it's best if they're not even friends at all, right? So the mom would kind of shrug off what the husband was telling her and said, look, let boys be boys. At least they have a friendship, despite Stephen being such an oddball. So the mom would just raise her eyebrows, at the dad and just kind of leave it at that. Luke goes on to tell me that when Stephen and him, when they would play, Stephen always had a fascination with animals. Stephen loved birds, the chipmunks, the squirrels, and other smaller rodents in their younger years through perhaps the fourth or fifth grades. Luke goes on to tell me that oftentimes that Stephen would try to talk with these animals. In fact, many of the familiar smaller rodents frequently paid Stephen and Luke visits when Stephen called out to them. They would emerge from the tree line and come right up to them looking for food because these guys would feed these animals. They would toss bread and sometimes hide parts of their dinner that they told mom and dad, hey, they were full. They kind of, hid their dinner and they also fed the animals their dinners. Luke goes on to tell me that it seemed like Stephen almost had a relationship with these little critters, these little rodents. As Tex would say, hi, Tex. So Luke was kind of, in a way, kind of jealous of Stephen because of his affinity or his seemed ability to speak with the animals. He goes on to say that it seems like these animals understood Stephen. Now, Luke himself would try to talk with these animals, but the animals always ignored Luke. They were just fascinated by Stephen. They were infatuated with him. Hey, Timmy, Ohio Bigfoot researchers. Great show with Timmy. Check it out with me and Tex on Thursday afternoon on brunch. That was a great show. Thanks for coming on in, man. So moving forward, late one night at a sleepover, Luke and Steven were together, and he joked with Steven and says, "Hey, so what did our little critters say to you today?" Because he's trying to understand what his friend is doing, what this communication is. And he expects his buddy Steven to just laugh out and say, Luke, we can't communicate like that, or something like that. What he did say next kind of gave Luke the chills, however. Just to remind you, this is right around the 5th grade when Steven told Luke this. Okay. He wanted to tell Luke that the small rodents had warned he and his friend, being that of Luke, never to go in the Shindagan National Forest. Didn't even ever go when they got older and when they were able to go by themselves. He was telling the rodents, the animals, were telling Steven to communicate this to Luke. Okay. Steven and Luke had both gone several times camping with their parents. It was always a great time. They had a lot of fun. This, that, and the other. But he looks at Steven. He thought Steven was joking. He goes, this is kind of absurd, dude. Hey, Pancho Zorch. But then Steven sternly looked at Luke and he says, we both would be in danger if we ventured by ourselves. When we get older, we should not take up camping in the Shindagan. Luke, of course, sarcastically says, you mean to tell me the damn squirrels told you this? He solemnly looks back at his friend. He says, yeah, Luke, they told me that. And I can understand everybody where now Luke is thinking, man, his friend maybe is really a weirdo. He's talking to squirrels, talking to little rodents, warning Steven to tell Luke that he's in danger as 5th graders. I would think that would be odd if one of my buddies told me that. I'm not lying to you. I think it's weird. So he stares back at his friend. He's kind of speechless. And so he goes home. Luke goes home and he tells his parents what Steven had said to him. Well, the mom already liked Steven anyway, kind of laughed it off. But the dad got really angry. And he told his son Luke that he would never be allowed to see Steven again. Hey, Head Trip, how you doing? Corey Cole, how you doing? Of course, the mom, the dad, they argued. The mom is arguing, don't tear up our friends' relationships. So what? The kid's odd. Let boys be boys. They have imaginations, right? Dad, however, wanted nothing to do with this. He did not want his son associating with this character, this kid, this oddball. As it turns out, the dad got his way, and Luke, kind of sadly, would never see Steven again until his 18th birthday. So this is the 5th grade when the dad forces the breakup of this friendship. And so now, whatever 5th grade, however old you are, he doesn't see his friend until when Luke turns 18. Okay. He did not even see Steven in school because the dad moved. He actually moved out of the school district. He moved out of the Ithaca school district within a 1-year period. So this dad was so, I guess, scared of this Steven, he actually pulled his son out of the school district in which Steven went to. So this is like crazy, right? We're to fast forward now. I think he says the year is 2015, and it was about 6 months. And Luke is now 6 months already removed from high school. All right, he already graduated. And upon the graduation, the mom and the dad of Luke's bought him a older model Jeep Cherokee, and they also got him his first cell phone. He was not allowed a cell phone, you guys, until he got out of high school. So the dad goes on to say on graduation day, he takes him out to the garage and presented this beautiful Jeep and the cell phone. And then the dad told his son, which is Luke, son, you're a man now, and you're going to need these items for your new job. And so Luke is like taken aback a little bit, everybody. You know, he just got out of high school. He don't want to go to work, right? He goes, like, my new job? You see, I guess Luke's school grades were very poor, and he was not smart enough to get into college, I guess. So his dad was pretty cool, looking out for his kid, as we all do as parents, right? Hey, Duke, how you doing? The dad got him a nice paying job as a laborer in the timber industry. Okay, inside of the Shindigan National Forest. And if you guys remember from earlier in the story, this kid Steven, who allegedly spoke with the animals, told him to tell his buddy Luke to never go into the Shindigan Forest, which is really the big reason why the dad separated the two friends. Again, it's the same tale as Stephen told him about the danger from the animals. So Luke thinks, yeah, this is, it's kind of eerie. But, you guys, he also tells me he's kind of excited about this all at the same time. Maggie, how you doing? Hello to everybody for coming on in. I'm at 4,999 subscribers. Yes, that's right. I'm one away. Technically 10, because people do drop off. But anyway, moving on with the story. So Luke gets his job and he starts working in the Shindigan National Forest when, out of the blue, young Luke, on his new job in the forest, decided to take a different way home, right? Okay. He decides to veer off his path and drive by his friend Steven's home. He's apprehensive, hasn't seen the guy since fifth grade. Now he's over 18, graduated high school, got a new car, a new cell phone. So, Luke is feeling his independence. Dad kept him away from his best buddy. He was like, screw dad. I'm going to go find my friend. I'm going to go look up my friend. Apprehensively, he does get to Steven's house. He drives up to the back of the house. He sits in his new Jeep purchased from his dad. And before he got out, he's just had these thoughts coming through his head. Hey, I wonder if my buddy will even remember me. Is he mad at me? Haven't talked to him in so many years. So he's very, very apprehensive. Then he's even wondering, does Steven live here? Does who lives here, right? So all these things are going through poor Luke's head. So Luke goes on to say that when he steps out of this Jeep, he automatically knew that this was very different from in their youth. He walks up to the home. The home, you guys, is all in disrepair. The plot of land was overgrown with vegetation. It looked like the field backing to the forest had not even been cut in years. This definitely is not what he had remembered back during grade school. Reluctantly, Luke goes up and he knocks on the door. I give this guy a lot of credit in a way, He is taken away from his buddy. It's been years, and this house now looks differently, and he doesn't know if Steven would be mad, what this would encapsulate. So this is all about growing up, right? So he's knocking on the back door, and he goes on to say that it seems like an eternity went by before the door was finally answered. Surprisingly, it was an elderly, much older woman answers the door. She looks at Luke and says, how may I help you?" He introduced himself and mentioned that he and Stephen were grade school friends. The older woman invites him in, right? She makes him feel at ease. He offers him a soda and to have a seat. This older woman now, she disappears. Hey, Brown Door disappears into the kitchen and returned with, a bottle of root beer. Hey, Daryl Stanley, Kirsten and Leah. If you're new here, please subscribe to BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Thanks for coming on in. Hey, Head Trip. So the older woman, she introduces herself as Ruthie, Stephen's grandmother, with, of course, Stephen's mom being what? That would make the daughter, right? Her daughter. This older Ruthie goes on to explain to Stephen that Stephen's parents had divorced when Stephen was in the 8th grade, and she went on to tell Stephen that Stephen's dad had disappeared. Listen to this, you guys. Stephen's dad disappears 2 years ago in the forest. So this is 2015 when he goes to pay Stephen a visit. So the guy has been disappeared since 2013. Okay. So I guess the mother, the wife presumed that her husband presumed dead, right? They never found a body, nothing like that. Now the mother has a nervous breakdown and she started losing her memory. She almost fell, and she's a younger woman. I mean, her son is only 18 himself. Stephen should be 18 at this time, and she started getting early stages of dementia. And she was put into an advanced care facility. Hi, Maggie. I guess Stephen's father had a nice insurance policy along with a nice aftercare benefit program or whatever they do, right? To fund her stay at this facility. So this Ruthie goes on to say that Stephen became dispatched with life. So this is Stephen, childhood friend, of whom Luke decided he wanted to go see his old friend, see how he was doing. So I guess the grandmother goes on to say Stephen became dispatched with life and he dropped out of school. She goes on to tell Luke that Stephen now lives out in the Shindagan National Forest, almost like an animal. Thank you, Maggie. Maggie, super sticker. Thank you so much. Now, she goes on to say that despite Stephen going and living like a wild man in the forest, would also, however, come back and check on his grandmother every few months to see how she was doing. So now you gotta listen. Now Luke's mind is ablaze. This guy Luke, he, it's such an oddity, right? Dad mysteriously disappears, presumed dead. The mother loses it. She's put into a home. The grandma lives there. Stephen now lives as a wild man in the Shindagan National Forest, which, by the way, the animals told Stephen to tell Luke not to venture into when they were young kids. So Luke's got to be in a state of shock. He's confused upon hearing all of this. There's so much information, he can't process it. Then, oddly enough, the old woman tells Luke to sit and to wait. Older woman Ruthie tells Luke that she can sense Stephen's presence at this point in time upon the visit, right? So this kid Luke, he's bewildered. He asked Ruthie what she meant by all this. I mean, what does she mean, presence? Then all of a sudden, everybody, the back door swung open of this house where Luke is there with old woman Ruthie. There appears Stephen through the back door. Hi, Sinfully. Hi, Isaac. Hi, Lucy. Luke goes on to say at first he can't recognize his old buddy Stephen. He was much taller than Luke, as he goes on to explain. He had long brown hair. He had a long beard, but he was very, very muscular, very fit looking. Stephen recognized Luke immediately. He came out to Luke and extended out his hand, which Luke goes on to explain that number one, his friend was barely even clothed. He had tattered rags of clothing he was sporting or wearing, and he was dirty as dirt can be. He says that the smell of his body almost made him want to vomit. Okay. So he reaches out for his hand, and I guess Stephen's hand had very long fingers, and those nails. He says Stephen's nails. It looked like they hadn't been clipped in ages, and they were very sharp and pointed at the end of each digit of his finger. Stephen motions to Luke to go outside in the back of the house. Stephen hasn't said anything yet. He hasn't verbalized to this guy, but he just kind of took his hand after they shook hands and motions him out back, right? Okay. Then Stephen, he breaks his silence. And Stephen says to Luke something along the lines of, I see that you're a logger in the Shindiga National Forest. Now, Luke says, how do you know this? Stephen goes on to say that he looks over him, his friend, every day. Stephen goes on to ask Luke if he remembered the story of the danger in the Shindigan about what the animals told Stephen when they were young fellas in the 5th grade. Luke replies back, yes. Yeah, I remember, man. He goes, you made up that story that you talked with animals. I didn't believe you from day one. I don't believe what they told you. That's why that's why I fell off. That's why our friendship ended, because of your dumb, scary tales. Stephen looked at him, kind of frowned, and says, my friend, I assure you I can speak with the animals, and what I told you indeed was fact. Stephen went on further and told him that he speaks to all of the animals of the forest. Luke now has all questions, lots of burning questions. He's trying to process this, everybody, and he wants to ask him some more things. But before he had time to ask any further questions, Stephen says back, I must go now as I am being called. So Stephen now turns, looks into the forest, tells his buddy Luke, I'm being called. He goes on to say, Luke, before I leave, I will tell you this. I will always be watching over you in the Shindiga National Forest. He goes on to say that it's full of danger for you, much like the stories that were told from the animals that was related from Stephen to Luke. With that, he turned around, Stephen. He walked off toward the tree line. Then, as Luke says, amazingly, Stephen drops to all fours and start to kind of run like an animal on all fours towards the tree line. He says he picked up great speed. If, of course, Then he says, I think that perhaps my eyes are playing tricks on me. Because what had happened is he says to me that on all fours as a human being, a raggedy, dirty human being, right? He seemed to shift from human to almost like a wolf. He disappears into the tree line. Okay. Moments later, Luke hears a thunderous howl from the edge of the woods. Luke says he stood, he stared. Now, Stephen's grandmother, Ruthie, now comes outside, walks up to Luke and says, and this is weird, you guys. The old lady, Ruthie, Stephen's grandma, comes out, looks at Luke and says, you and Stephen are forever bound. She says something weird like, he is your servant, he is your protector. Without him, you're nothing in this shindigan. He goes on to tell me still to this day that he does work, Luke, in the Shindigan National Forest. He has never seen Stephen again, and this is 2025 now. But he says most assuredly, he does hear that familiar howl from the woodline from time to time, much like the howl when he last saw Stephen shift into a wolf and disappear into the woods. He thinks Stephen looks out after him for whatever the reason he don't know. Okay, excuse me, you guys. That's one hell of an experience, an encounter, whatever you want to call it. I still don't understand what this shape-shifting Stephen is protecting this guy from. He looks over him, but why? What is it? Are there things in the forest that have it in for this Luke guy? I mean, I don't know. There's probably more to the story that was told to me. So that's the part I don't get. Hey, man, I believe shapeshifters exist. I believe all this stuff, as you guys know. So I'm not doubting the shapeshifter story. My confusion lies in why does he feel the need to protect his friend, right? That's the thing I don't get. Followed up with an email, a while back when I got this story and asked why, and I asked him that question, and he replies back, does not know, but he still works in the forest, still has the same job, and I guess his life is okay. Hi, football cat. Thanks to hi, Andrew. Hello to everybody for coming on in. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I'm doing 3 pretty cool encounter stories tonight. That was the first one. I'm sitting here at 4,999 subscribers. So yeah, I'm trying to get past 5,000 here today. So thanks for coming in. I love all you guys for your support and love. Super chats are open, pirates are open. And I'm going to get on with the second story, but I got to get a drink of water. So give me about 30 seconds. I'm just going to remove myself right quick, and I'll be back with our second story, which is equally as fascinating. So hang out and chat. Don't go nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I just got to get a quick drink. BMR, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Be back in a minute. Well, that was less than a minute. That was less than a minute. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Appreciate you guys. I really appreciate the support over the years, and so I got another one for you guys. Um, Something again. All these I've gotten from people via email, social media, spoke on the phone, and yeah, they're like true cryptid encounters. This one, I kind of like this one a lot. I like this one because it kind of has Michigan ties. Well, in fact, it does have Michigan ties. It's about this young female journalist, and this is about her Dogman experience. She always was infatuated with Dogman, was interested in it. And this actually takes place November 8th of 2024. And I'm going to get into this young lady's story. Her name is Sarah. And she goes on to say that she lives in Michigan. And she's saw the show several times. She graduated from Michigan State with a degree in journalism back in 2005. So 19 years later, yeah. So she's like in her mid 40s, upper 40s, I guess. She goes on to tell me that she lived in Lansing for about 3 years, and she was going from job to job in the very difficult journalism market, very competitive in the state of Michigan. Not so much Lansing, but Detroit. You know, good luck to you if you're trying to break into radio or journalism here in this state. Much like the other big markets, Detroit, Los Angeles, so forth. Her aspiration, though, was to become a reporter and eventually make it behind the news desk. She wanted to be an anchor on a local network in Michigan. She goes on explaining that the road is very hard, very hard. And then she decided after some futility here in the state of Michigan, she says, "Hey, Rob, man, it's time to make a change." So I had to move on. So she has relatives that lived in Wisconsin. So she decided, well, you know what? Instead of the big market, I'm going to venture off into the smaller market of Wisconsin. Try her luck there. And she goes on to tell me that, oddly enough, in the journalism, broadcasting, TV business, it's actually very good to have more jobs and go from job to job. You know, it's one of the few professions where being a job bouncer or going job to job helps you because you actually gain more experience. And I can buy that. That's how all these TV personalities anchor people on the news and end up doing it. They go from state to state, job to job, starting out the ground floor in the editing room, so on and so forth. Getting coffee, probably starting out. Who knows? But typically, though, with the more experience, then the more value you are, I guess. But anyways, moving on. So she packs her bag. She's off to Wisconsin to build up her resume in hopes of coming back to Michigan. Her goal was to gain some experience in Wisconsin. Everybody come back to Michigan. Okay. She goes on to tell me that as a younger girl leading into adulthood, she always had a fascination with creepy legends and folklore. Okay. She tells me, along with UFOs and strange paranormal phenomena, she was interested in everything. She goes on to say that during her studies at MSU, she always chose elective courses in folklore and the arts and the sciences, whatever else was available to her as a credit to take without disrupting her journalism career. But she also had a fascination with Bigfoot and cryptids. Okay, she actually, being a Michigander, knew about the legend of the Michigan Dogman. Hey, Andy, how you doing? Hello to everybody for coming on in. Although younger, when she was younger, she didn't really pay a lot of attention because she was both a skeptic but at the same time, trying to be a journalist, she knew she had to have an open mind. She also says that especially if a story is newsworthy, if it captures the pulse of society. She goes on to tell me that one of her favorite journalists, everybody, was congratulations, Duke, 26,000 subs for Dookie. I'm hopefully hopefully I'm at 5,000. I haven't looked yet. I needed one. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, if you guys remember George Knapp, to follow George at all, he happened to be one of Sarah's favorite journalists. And back in the day, George Nuri, as a younger guy, was actually a very big skeptic when it came to UFOs and aliens. Until one day, George Knapp reluctantly did an interview back in 1970 with John Lear. Okay. John Lear steered him down his path as becoming a leading investigative journalist today in ufology, right? So she kind of fashioned her model after George Knapp. She goes on and takes the news job in Wisconsin for a small public television network. She was both the producer, the copywriter, the editor, and had all of the responsibilities except her number one goal as being behind that news desk as the anchor. Where she was at, that job was held by a longtime TV personality. It lasted about 20 years in the state of Wisconsin. So anyway, she goes, Rob, blah, blah, blah. She goes, she has a lot more history in the talk business and to talk about, but she wants to get on and tell me about the Dogman story. So she laid out her groundwork. She gave me a nice little history of herself leading up into the Dogman experience. So she cut out the rest and goes on to it. So she met Linda Godfrey, this young lady, when she was in Wisconsin, right? And this was during her second year in Wisconsin. And there was an official at the public TV network knew of Sarah's fascination with strange phenomena. And so this person did her a solid, right? Did her a favor and introduced her to Linda Godfrey. Embarrassed, but Sarah's embarrassed because she did not know about Linda Godfrey upon this meeting. So she's kind of embarrassed. Hey, Roger. Hey, Head Trip. Hey, Rags. How you doing? So she meets Linda Godfrey, right? Godfrey, excuse me. And then they spoke. And then, yes, you know what came up was the Beast of Bray Road and the discussion in this little interview session. So this young Sarah, aspiring journalist, wants to bust into unusual phenomena, found this just to be fascinating, and she was hooked on this Dogman phenomena. Now, again, as I stated earlier, she heard about the Dogman phenomena here in the state of Michigan as a younger girl, right? And so she now knows that Wisconsin is also a great state to get her feet wet in this phenomena. So she went on to pick Linda's brain, asked her many, many questions. She goes on to say Linda Godfrey was a great, genuine person, really loved her. And she goes on to tell me she'll be missed today upon her passing, right? So this Sarah now, she kind of tries to emulate now. She was trying to emulate George Knapp, and now talking with Linda Godfrey, she's running with her torch and kind of trying to do kind of the same things that Linda would do. So she has spent the next 2 years in Wisconsin interviewing people that had allegedly had encounters with Dogman. She traveled Bray Road and explored, and she even explored the other woodlands of Wisconsin. She goes on to tell me she befriended a local hunter and woodsman named Steve, who would also accompany her on her exploration, as Sarah knew nothing about the woods, did not want to go by herself, and that's good kudos for her, because I definitely agree with that. She did not want to venture off into the woods alone and inexperienced. During this 2-year period, she says, "Hey, Rob, man, I didn't come across any evidence, no clues, no vocalizations, no tracks, and nothing." She goes on to say that she began to wonder if she was just chasing a myth or an alleged legend. She goes, "However, I did believe in Linda, and she did believe in the people that she interviewed, but she came up empty in 2 years, nothing." Got frustrated, you guys, and she decides now it's time to move back to the state of Michigan. Once again, starting over once again, you guys. This girl, man, she really I give her credit. I give her credit, you guys. So excuse me, I'm sorry. So once again, she takes a smaller job for a local news outlet where she concentrated her job on just being a journalist. And she put her job first and put the Dogman chase to an end. She was done with the Dogman phenomenon. During the first year back to the state of Michigan, she fell in love. She gets married, and she tells her husband during her period of dating about her passion for the Dogman phenomena, which she just decided to, again, put it to rest. So she goes on to say that her husband, John, who's a hunter and a Bigfoot enthusiast, he shares that passion along with her. So they both got together and he talked her back into devoting her time with his help, that they would go back into time researching the Dogman. John had John, her husband, now continued his executive position in the healthcare industry, and they moved north just outside of, guess what, everybody, Wexford, Michigan. Hi, Henry. Wexford, Michigan is, of course, in my great state, the capital of Dogman. Her research begins. Okay. She goes on to tell me that John and her home is nestled in the Manistee National Forest. And you guys know about the Manistee National Forest. That's the forest which is near Lake Cadillac, where I had my Bigfoot encounter. The Manistee National Forest, as you guys well know by now that know me or follow me, know that this forest is filled with mystery, legend, hauntings, curses. It's just a huge forest in my state. With the exception of the Upper Peninsula, probably the biggest, has the most miles and acres in my state. Now, again, she goes on to say, now, as you know, Rob, it's a huge forest. It's produced many Dogman and Bigfoot accounts. And she says that I'm aware of this, that, and the other. And you can find a lot of these stories on our websites. So, what she decided to do is revert back to what she did in Wisconsin and start interviewing people in the state of Michigan, particularly in Wexford, about their encounters with Dogman or the Michigan Dogman. She sat back, she listened to their stories, and her, and along with some of her male friends, all versed in cryptids and research, they decide to put an expedition together and venture out into the woods to look for these cryptids. She finds that it was a little bit different in Wisconsin and from Michigan, because she says, unlike Wisconsin, for whatever the reason, there's conflicting stories of folks in Michigan saying they view Dogman as a fierce predator, a dimensional being that wreaks havoc upon folks in the state of Michigan. Where she says in Wisconsin, strangely enough, she didn't get that vibe. For whatever the reason, you guys, I don't know. I think the vibe of Wisconsin is equally as eerie as Michigan. That's just my opinion. but I was not the one talking to these people. Okay. Most people in Michigan view Dogman as an evil force, a weapon of Satan, she says, or even a lab animal. We've all heard those stories. She talked to some of the local tribal leaders that stated that Dogman was the protector of the forest, where others views Dogman as the guardian of the dead to keep local curses at bay to the residents and the land of the Manistee National Forest. Many of her experiences and interviews depicted Dogman from their encounters as flesh and blood, while others as a dimensional paranormal entity that could appear at any moment to ward off unlikely individuals from their plane, their realm, or their domain. So she goes on to say this is great fuel for a fire, but she's immersed into this now. But then she goes on and says, Rob, these are just stories. I spent 2 years in Wisconsin, no evidence, nothing. Great stories. She's still skeptical. And she goes on. She wants to see this Dogman firsthand. She wants to see the Dogman. She wants everybody to put this to rest. Does it exist? Does it not exist? She was kind of getting sick and tired of following all these great stories, but to always come up empty, right? Okay. So she goes on to tell me that her husband and they put together a team. Now, her husband is rich. He's loaded. A lot of money, she says, an executive in pharma. They went out and spent 15 months in the woods. She actually, with her news job, she kind of she put that aside. She takes a leave of absence. The husband's a big wig in pharma. They go into the woods, you guys, for 15 months. She goes on to tell me now about her encounter. Their campsite was set in the middle of the Manistee Forest. They chose a location gathered through data where they deemed it most likely to have or spot an occurrence, where a lot of alleged Dogman reports have been brought from, right? She says it was early fall and the leaves started to change color. She said herself, John, again, taking leave from work, and two other friends, Bill and Todd, had rolled over all their vacation from their jobs to allow for a 3-week expedition. They had a sizable 13-foot trailer and camper and a very sturdy cloth army cell tent big enough to sleep 8 people. They kind of had set up like a mini headquarters with the RV, with all the food, all the water, all the amenities needed for at least a month stay overnight, right? The first 5 days of hiking and exploring came up with little to no evidence. Some unusual tree structures and almost primitive looking huts, along with freshly broken tree limbs, appeared along their travels, along their investigations. And they knew they were not from Mother Nature or snowfall or anything like that. Bill and the group mentioned that perhaps they're not in an area where Dogman roams because of this evidence with the tree breaks and some structures. They thought now they're in like Bigfoot territory. So this perks up their ears at the possibility that they might just run into a Bigfoot instead of a Dogman. And she says, hey, you know what, Rob? At this point, that'd be just as cool, although she wanted to see the Dogman. So with all the years of interviewing people, she just wanted some answers, you guys. So on their 6th night, she went off to sleep. She went outside and slept in the tent with the guys. Her other previous nights, she slept in the camper trailer. She wanted a little change of pace. So she sits down with John, Bill, and Todd. They all go to sleep together. And again, in this big army tent, right? And she tossed and turned, you guys, all sorts of weird dreams and images. They started entering her subconscious. Her visions and her dreams, everybody, were of huge wolf-like creatures, ghastly, disfigured human forms and shapes, very terrifying nightmares. Then a horrific growling entered her dreams and her thoughts. She hears this in her mind. She says she can hear it as clear as day. Then she realized she was not dreaming, that she was wide awake during all of this. Well, maybe not the visualizations of these wolf-like creatures, but she thought she was dreaming the howling. Then she realized, oh my gosh, she's up. She hears this. Bill and Todd awoke. They were well awake. They were awake. The other two guys they were already awake. The husband John was still asleep. I mean, he's sleeping through this wild, crazy howling going on and all this commotion. She goes over and tries to shake up John. She tries to awake John, but John would not wake up. So she grew scared. John is kind of like comatose. He was breathing. He was alive, but she's scared. She can't get him up. Hey, Amy, how you doing? Hello to everybody for coming on in. Yeah, I'm just getting out with the story. Hello to each and every single one of you. Doing a couple stories here tonight, trying to hit 5,000 subs and such. And this is kind of a little off scripted for y'all. But anyway, moving on. They hear these growls outside the tent. So this guy, Billy, goes over and he opens up the tent, the tent enclosure, and he yells out to everybody back in the tent, hey, you guys, come here quickly. Come to the front of the tent. Check this out. So Sarah says the guys, they get to the tent. They look out of their tents in the Manistee National Forest, Wexford, Michigan, out there somewhere. And they look out the tent and they see three wolf-like humans. She says his powers, they were built like bodybuilders, draped in long black hair. They had menacing, oversized, mongoloid-looking heads perched atop their shoulders. And this is where it gets, I mean, not that, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much, man. They were circling a totem pole. She says, all of a sudden, there's a totem pole here. Now, where did this totem pole come from, you guys? I don't know. Don't know. As I was reading into this, I have no clue. But anyway, these three wolf-like men, they're circling a totem pole. Now, this totem pole had a disfigured body strapped to the pole. And this body strapped to the pole was more human-looking than a wolf. It was like almost like they said, like a human being. She goes now as I'm reading further into this, now it makes sense. The totem pole wasn't there. As she says that this totem pole was translucent. However, the three wolf-like monsters were as solid as you and I. And then she says these creatures started chanting. She says the verbiage was not very distinguishable. It almost seemed native and unfamiliar. It was chilling. They stared in fright. Hang on one second. This is like super awesome. I appreciate all your love and support. Scotty with a big 5,000 pennies. Maybe someone knows something I don't. Did I just go over 5,000? I got to look it up. Thank you, Scott. And also, really briefly, not only thank you to Scott, thank you to Laura for gifting 5 members, 5 BMR Pirates Armady. Thank you to Australia's Maggie for a super sticker. Thank you to Sinfully Wicked for gifting 5 more Pirates R. Mike Bothwell from Canada. Thank you, my friend. Thank you to all you guys. There's Mike. There's Simply. There's Maggie. There's Pixie. Thank you, Scott. I love you all. Thank you so much. I guess I'm at 5,000. I'll find out a little later. So thank you ever so much. Thanks to everybody for coming on in and support and the love. So thank you. I guess I'm at 5K. But anyways, I gotta regroup my thoughts. I'm trying to think where the heck I was in this. Just all excited here, you guys. Thank you. Bear with me. Whoa, thank you, Keith from Michigan. Rolling in another $10. You guys are gonna throw me off. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna forget where I'm at during my losing concentration. Thank you, Keith. Love you, pal. Thank you. Keith from Oakland County will be on the show here in January. He's got some cool stuff to talk about. So, thank you, Keith. Moving on, trying to get my regaining my train of thought. Okay, so I guess where I left off, the creatures were chanting that verbiage that was not distinguishable, sounded native and unfamiliar. I think that's where I left off. So anyway, it's very chilling to say the least. So I guess all these guys in the tent, Sarah and the men, they're staring out at what's going on. Three wolf-like dog creatures, physical form, physical shape, circling around a translucent totem pole with an apparent human body strapped to it. She goes on to say that these wolf-like men or creatures did not recognize them or glance over their way. Kind of didn't think they were there, I guess. They were deeply transfixed on this apparent ritual that they were performing around this totem pole. Then, as I mentioned earlier, John, the husband, who they could not wake up, who was sleeping in the back of the tent, amidst didn't see any of this. He's still stone cold sleeping or comatose. I don't know. Now they hear a moaning, though, from the back of the tent. Sarah says now it's the husband, John, the guy that, again, boom, he's out of it. John is now standing up, everybody. He's standing up in the back of the tent. This dude is standing up in the back of the tent, comatose John, right? He almost looked like he was in a trance as the wife Sarah goes on, right? They rush over to John, and then he starts to speak. John is starting to speak. Okay, everybody, no big deal, starting to speak. She goes, hey, Rob, man, horrifically, man, it was not John's voice. It seemed like her husband was possessed or something. She says his voice was gravelly and rough. Then all of a sudden, his voice got a little more clearer and it speaks out. Now, before I tell you what John says, you got to remember what I told you earlier. The Manistee National Forest, there are sections here, and I've spoke with some elders throughout my lifetime and researched stuff. There are many, many sections of the Manistee National Forest here in the state of Michigan that are cursed and haunted lands that First Nations have cast upon the land. A lot of this had to do with settlers, American or the English or Europeans coming over and removing the natives. So there's shapeshifters, there's all sorts of tribal ritual and rites, okay? So it kind of makes sense because here's what the voice rings out and says. The voice from John, not his own. This is cursed land. This is cursed land. Stop seeking what you seek, or you will become a part of the sacrifice. Let me repeat that again, you guys. This is coming from John, not his voice, the guy that was comatose. Again, three wolf-like creatures celebrating, running around a transparent totem pole of sorts with a human body affixed to it. Manistee National Forest, cursed lands. I've read about it. I've heard about it. Uttered from this guy, John's mouth is, again, this is cursed land. Stop seeking what you seek, or you will become of the sacrifice. I don't know about you guys. That's chilling. Now, John then drops to the ground, And he kind of apparently, I guess, gets out of this trance. Okay. He says, okay, all these people see these three wolves, the totem pole, the dude strapped to the totem pole. He gets up, says what he says. I laugh because he he wakes up, says, "Hey, what happened? What's going on?" Like nothing. He's all casual. Hey, what happened, man? What's going on? They're looking at him, right? I can only imagine being there. So now they're catering to John, and talking to him. They lose focus on these three wolf-like creatures. They lose track of the totem pole, the whole 9 yards, because now they're attending John. They glaze out of the tent. The monsters, the wolf monsters, whatever you want to call them, you guys, entities, I don't know. The figure on the totem pole, they're all gone. It's gone. They're all gone. So she goes on to tell me, hey, Rob, in conclusion, this, that, and the other, I don't think, Rob, this was Dogman to you. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they've appeared solid, it kind of had the traditional description of the Dogman. So I really didn't have a good answer. She goes, man, no, Rob, this wasn't Dogman. She goes on to tell me this was not what she expected at all. And then she goes on to be reluctant. I can't believe I wasted, not that she wasted her time, that she got involved with this and was subject to what she witnessed and encountered. Now she's worried about her husband being possessed, this, that, and the other. And she goes, yeah, Rob, this is cursed land. She goes on to say that they were warned to get out of there. She goes, Rob, I was not in my league. We were not in our league. We were well out of our league. We were on sacred ground. We were intruding upon something. They were in a place, you guys, where they shouldn't have been. Now she says, Rob, my question that I have to research now is, what is this evil? What did we come across? She goes on and says, Rob, man, I consider myself lucky to be alive. She says her husband, John, is fine and well. Now, she sent me this in 2024 during Thanksgiving. So this is all very current. This all took place in 2015 for those just coming on in. But she says she'll never be the same. Now, John, her husband, don't even have any clue as to what happened. It's like, hey, boom, he just had boom. So that's what's frustrating for her as well, because John don't have a clue. She says, yeah, she'll look at the forest differently again, and now she is done with her investigations of unknown phenomenon, most, certainly the Dogman, werewolf, whatever you want to call it. And I quite frankly don't blame this woman, Sarah. I'm glad she's okay. I'm glad John's okay. I'm glad that they got out of that place in one piece. I don't know what I would, how I would respond if something happened. I will tell you this, my quick take. Again, they came across they came across cursed land. I think they were warned to get out of there. And I think that entire ritual was that to tell them to get out of there. As far as the Dogman being physical and solid, but then the apparition of the totem pole and the human, and then John all of a sudden being kind of possessed and uttering the cursed land verbiage that I said a little earlier. I don't know. That's one of the cooler. I mean, I wasn't really cool, obviously, but one of the more intriguing stories, right, or encounter stories. I hope you guys like that. Apparently, I'm at 5,000 subscribers. Thank you. Yay! All right. I got one last one for you, for y'all tonight. I kind of do these impromptus once every 2 weeks and give you guys some cool stories. I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you to each and every single one of you for coming in today. I appreciate you guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't have a show. You are the driving force. Again, if you are new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze, Texas Front Porch, World Bigfoot Central, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. Donnie Cho says stuff. That's a fun show. And of course, Paranormal Paul. So yeah, thanks. Oh, by the way, hit the like button, would you? Hit the damn like button. Anyway, I got one last one for you. This is more of a, I don't know what this is. Let you guys mull it over as I go on with this. It's the last one of the night. Tonight on the Blahs and Booze, I'll be on with them as well. I'll be raffling off, or we'll be doing a little fun game at the end of the show where I'll be donating a free book to somebody, and the Blahs will be giving off a T-shirt tonight. So yeah, go check them out. We're talking about some ghosts, and we're going to talk a little bit on the news with what's happening out in California with the terrible tragedy going on out there. So it's going to be a little mix of weirdness and real life stuff. And then, of course, you have an opportunity to win a book and a T-shirt. There's one Jailhouse werewolf, or not. You guys let me know what you think. Thanks for coming in. So it's an email again. All these are emails I got, whether I talk to guys on the phone during email. And, I put a lot of time in these interviews. A lot of them, they don't want to come on the shows. So what I do in turn is I recite them and I memorize them, tell them to you guys. I got my notes, of course, a lot of detail on a lot of these things. So I do put some time to this, and I appreciate all of you for putting time into me. Goes on to say, hey, Rob, I'm reaching out to you on an email because I do believe that something evil has taken a hold of me, or at the very least is trying to break my inner being or soul, if you will. So right when I read that, you guys are like, oh boy, here we go. I got to keep reading. A person goes on to tell me, hey, Rob, man, I'm not a man of God. I'm not a God-fearing man. Nor do I consider myself evil. Right? I just don't believe. Or don't believe in God. I must tell you, Rob, I do fear to come on your show because I kind of wanted to come on your show. But I don't want to come on your show. I'm not fearful, though, Rob, of being judged or ridiculed about my story. Not that at all. It's because I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. I'm embarrassed of the dirty deeds I've done. My past is it's not up to human standards. I'm a bad man, he goes on to tell me. So I'm like, great, this guy's got my email. Some killer, I don't know. So I continue on, though, you guys, going through this. He goes, as of my writing you this, it's the current year of 2024. Again, he keeps reiterating, I've done some bad things. He goes, I'm 42 years old. He says he's spent 6 of his adult years in and out of jail for a variety of crimes. He says he's never been in state or federal penitentiary or the prison. It's mostly been in county lockup in the state of Massachusetts. He goes, my real name, Rob, I'll give you my real name. It's Tobias. The crimes that I have committed, I will tell you this. They were not against women or children. Mostly against society in general. Part of my dirty deeds was breaking into residential homes, commercial residences, and stealing to earn my money. Rob, you see, I'm a perennial thief. And I'm not well liked. I've been in and out of jail for breaking and entering with intentions to steal valuables. Again, that's what I did. That was my career. No, I'm not addicted to drugs. I'm not addicted to alcohol. I found this the best way for me to earn my keep. I have worked maybe a total of 6 years in my entire life. he says. He's 42. He's worked 6 years, guys. The rest of his life, he was a thief. My father has continued to bail me out of jams and take care of my legal implications. He's a very wealthy man and knows what strings to push to keep my jail term sentences moderate. Most other folks would have served much longer terms than I. I guess in a way for me, I was lucky in that regard with my father. I never brandished a weapon for the fear of using it in a stress-related incident because I'm probably sure I could have killed somebody by now if I had brandished a weapon. I also know when brandishing a weapon, the jail sentences are much harsher and stricter. I know the system. My last stint at county lockup was for a total of 18 months. During the last 3 months of my most recent incarceration is where my life really has put me in a quandary of which I feel there's no escape. He goes on to tell me this is what he's gone through, you guys. He says he's laying back in his bunk, staring at the drab gray walls of his cell. He thinks he's dreaming. A hulking, shadowy figure seemed to materialize before his very eyes. It had piercing yellow eyes. And I'm thinking it should have piercing red eyes the way this character is, right? But anyways, he says that piercing yellow eyes, sharp fangs, and an unmistakable look to him just like a werewolf, he says. Again, in his jail cell, he's seeing this object. He says his heart pounds in his chest and he remained perfectly still, but he could hardly breathe. He says, man, it was so hard to breathe. His heart is pulpating, right? It's pulpitating or whatever that word is. I don't know. The werewolf, he says, approached his bedside, its clawed feet making no sound on the cold concrete floor. It leaned in close, and to his utter astonishment, it spoke. Don't be afraid, it growls in a deep, rumbling voice. He goes, I mean you no harm. So again, whether this guy's dreaming, he sees this, again, boom, this werewolf, whatever you want to call it. Hey, man, don't be afraid. I mean you no harm, blah, blah, blah. He stares at this creature. He's transfixed with this creature. He fully realizes, hey, Rob, man, this is no dream. The werewolf was real. It's standing right in front of him. Tobias goes, what do you want? What do you want of me? He stammers, he's stammering. He's scared. He doesn't know what the hell's going on, right? The werewolf settles onto the edge of his bunk. And he knows his physical. Now he goes, he can't believe this because it caused the weight of this creature causes the frame of his bed to creak. This werewolf entity, apparition, whatever you want to call it, I've been watching you, young man. He goes, I sense a darkness within you, a restlessness that echoes my own. So now, whatever. Now, this is evil stuff. This whatever. Ain't no werewolf. It's probably a demon that took on the form, telling this guy, this bad guy, worked 6 years, in and out of jail, has this account, right, with whatever this is that's been watching him, senses this man's darkness, Tobias, can sense his restlessness, and it echoes his own. I'm thinking Lucifer, you guys. That's what I'm thinking right off the bat. Ain't no werewolf, right? It's just maybe what the devil himself transformed into. How is this possible? Werewolves, these stories, these myths, he goes on, he utters out loud to whatever this thing is. This werewolf entity or creature lets out a chuckle. Oh, we're very real, and I believe you have the potential to join us to embrace the power that lies dormant within you. Oh, God, you guys, come on. Really? Oh, we are very real, and I believe we have the potential to join us to embrace the power that lies dormant within you. That's nuts. Guy shakes his head in disbelief. Join you, but I'm just a man locked up in this cell. How could I possibly? And it ends there. Interrupted by this entity. I think it's a demon, you guys. Ah, but you're more than that, this werewolf interrupts. I can feel the wolf stirring inside you, waiting to be unleashed. It leans in closer. Its hot breath is in this guy's face. So not only do I think this is an entity, but now it's physical. The bed creaks, feels hot breath. So I don't know about you guys. I'm confused. And then this wolf-like creature says, all you have to do is say yes. He stares into those glowing yellow eyes, which frankly I think should probably be red, right? His mind is racing. Can this be real? Could I truly become a werewolf? What's going on here? He says he's terrified but intrigued all at the same time. As he opens his mouth to respond back to his being, a loud clang echoed through the cell block, and the werewolf vanished, leaving him alone. So he gets visited by something, I think some demonic force that knows this guy's evil himself or a bad dude, and is baiting him into doing something nefarious, I think. I think it's baiting him into joining whatever it is. I just don't know. So, anyways, as the story goes on now, several weeks several weeks pass by. This guy Tobias is now released from jail and he's set free. So Tobias' dad picks up this guy, and again, good old daddy, enabling daddy, right? Picks up his kid and he buys him a brand new trailer outside of town in the middle of the woods, brand new. He goes on to tell me it's in Massachusetts area, and he don't want to disclose the location, whatever, this, that, and the other. The dad also gave him $3,000, but now the dad, I guess he's kind of fed up with his kid, enabler throughout his life, throughout all his crimes, gives him $3,000, brand new trailer, middle of the woods, sets him up. But now he does tell his son, I never want to see you again. So the dad finally decides to cut ties with the kid. He goes out, the dad tells his kid Tobias, that his lifestyle that his son leads is too much of a strain and a burden, not only for himself, but for his mother. Tobias shakes his dad's hand and agreed that he never would visit his dad again. He went off to his brand new trailer, $3,000 at hand, but $3,000, obviously that $3,000 is going to run out, you guys. And what's he going to do? Go back on his crime spree, I guess. He goes no less than a week in his new trailer. This guy says, Rob, I heard bipedal footsteps circling the outside of the home. It was well after midnight. Then the footfall stopped. Then just outside of the front door, a deep scratching and scraping on the metal pierced his eardrums. So now there's a scraping, a scratching on this trailer, metal, claws on metal, I'm assuming. He goes, hey, Rob, man, this went on for about 10 minutes, but then, of course, it stopped. So he reluctantly opened his door, looks out, but there's nothing in sight. He looked to, I guess, the door area, and sure enough, he sees deep claw marks or gashes all about and around the frame of the door. He went down his steps. He had like a makeshift steps that led up to the trailer to get into it. And he noticed a huge, oversized wolf-like animal impressions in the ground, all about the ground circling this trailer. He panicked and raced back inside his trailer. He sits on, he says he sits on his sofa, you know, and for the first time in his life, he says, you guys remember the beginning of the story? He said he's not a God-fearing man. Didn't believe in God. Didn't believe in Jesus. None of that. Didn't believe in nothing. He says for the first time in his life now, he starts to pray. He starts to pray to God in his little living room in this trailer. Hey, BJ, good to see you. Good to see everybody. He said he sat there in deep thought for an hour. Then he decides to go to his bedroom of the trailer and go to sleep. He says he dozed off for about an hour when he was awakened by footfall. Walking, not outside the trailer, everybody, but inside his bedroom. He wakes up in horror. There, at the edge of his bed, was the same werewolf type creature, entity, demon, whatever you want to call it, standing there. Eyes ablaze, glaring at me. And if you guys remember, I said, how can these have yellow eyes? You know, he kept mentioning yellow eyes. Well, now he goes on and says, these were not the same yellow eyes. Same creature, but not the yellow eyes. What was blazing was red, fiery eyes. It spoke, and it says now, much like it spoke to him back in the jailhouse, praying to God will not help you as you are a non-believer. You, Tobias, knows the guy's name, are an evil man. All you have to do is say yes. This devil, this entity's baiting this guy, isn't he? If you've been listening, following along the story, baiting this guy into something, right? Within that time period, now he gives this guy this message. The werewolf creature or whatever it is faded away. It just fades away like it was a ghost. So he flees his trail. Now, so now this guy, he's scared. Sorry about that. I had to call it and my phone. Anyway, so this guy is visited. He's scared, this, that, and the other. He now flees his trailer and he goes to his father's home. Okay. He looked as if though he was lying to him. Anyway, no, he flees. He goes to his dad's house. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, hang on a second. What? Okay, anyway, sorry. I thought that was my mom calling me. You guys know she's kind of sick. It wasn't her. So he leaves the trailer, goes to dad's house. Dad answers the door. He allowed his son to spend the night. Okay, so the dad who wants nothing with them allows them to spend the night, this, that, and the other. In the morning, the father tells his son he's going to drive me to his local church and introduce him to his priest, his priest friend. Daddy's got lots of money, has all these connections, right? The dad introduces his son to the holy man. He sits down, and his son explains the experiences to the holy man. The holy man tells the dad that his son can seek refuge in his home. He told the father that he did not believe that he was being tormented by a werewolf, but that he explained that Satan's demons had a hold of him, and that the only way out was to accept Jesus Christ into his life. Tobias goes on to tell me he lived with his priest for several months, and he today has accepted Christ. He has not had any reoccurring events like this that he had outlined throughout the story, you guys. So apparently he found Christ, lives with this priest, in harmony, I guess, if you want to call it that, oddly enough. However, he says in the back of his mind, he's telling me in this email, you guys, that he thinks something is lurking and waiting for him. He thinks something evil is still waiting for him to slip up. He says he waits for his call again. Waits for his call again. Yeah, you guys, I think this guy, I don't think this is no werewolf story. I think this guy, a bad guy, I think he came across something while in jail throughout his life. I think it was something that was trying to coax him to further his sinning ways, to be a bad man. I think it was paranormal more than anything. I think that whatever this was, just, it emulated that of a werewolf for whatever the reason. And I think he's a bad dude. Now, apparently he still lives with this priest or whatever. Fine and dandy sugar candy. Still a bad dude. Hopefully he's all right, But, the dad had been enabling him throughout his life, this, that, and the other. And, yeah. So I thought that was, I think one of those cool paranormal stories. I want to thank everybody for coming in, you guys. I appreciate this. I was trying, I think I hit 5,000 subs. I got to check later. I want to thank Paranormal Laura. Thank you for the gifting 5 Bigfoot BMR memberships. Thank you so much. Maggie for your super sticker. Sinfully for gifting 5 more. Mike for your awesome super chat. Big Scott with 5,000 pennies for 5,000 subscribers. I'm guessing. Thank you ever so much. My buddy Keith from Michigan, thank you so much. I appreciate and love each and every single one of you. If you're new, please subscribe. I'm kind of eager to see if I hit that 5,000. I guess I did. I'll be on a Blondes and Booze in 45 minutes. We're going to give away some books, a shirt. We're also going to talk some the fires that's going on in California and some ghost stories. I appreciate all you guys. I really do. Thank you. Without you and the people also that listen and don't come and chat, you're just as valuable. They help drive the shows. Without you guys, I wouldn't do this today. Subscribe across the board to all our channels. Thank you for coming in once again. I'm Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And until next time, see you on the flip side.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.